The house stood at the end of the street like it had been waiting. No birds landed on its roof. No dogs barked near its gate. Every window looked dark. Even at noon, neighbors avoided looking at it for too long. The family that moved in believed the rumors were exaggerations. They said every old house had stories. The father unlocked the door with shaking hands. The air inside was cold and heavy. It smelled like dust and something rotten beneath it. The mother watched the moment she stepped inside. The children went silent without being told. The door closed behind them on its own. The sound echoed too long for a small hallway. The walls were covered in old stains. Some looked like water damage, others did not. The first night passed without sleep. Footsteps moved upstairs while everyone stayed in bed. The father thought it was pipes. The mother heard breathing near her ear. The children whispered about shadows on the ceiling. Morning came without sunlight touching the windows. The clocks inside the house were all wrong. Time moved slower in the kitchen, faster in the hallway. The basement door was locked from the inside. No one remembered locking it. Scratching sounds came from below at night. The family agreed not to talk about it. On the third night, someone laughed in the walls. It sounded like a child choking. The youngest son stopped speaking entirely. He only pointed at corners. The mother began seeing figures standing behind mirrors. They disappeared when she turned around. The father found fingerprints on the ceiling. They were facing downward. The house grew colder each day. Food spoiled within hours. The smell became stronger. It smelled like death that had soaked into wood. The neighbors noticed the lights never turned off. Screams were heard, but never reported. On the seventh night, the basement door opened. Something climbed the stairs slowly. Each step sounded wet. The father went to check with a flashlight. He never came back upstairs. His scream ended suddenly. The house went completely silent. The mother locked the children in the bedroom. The walls began to bleed. The youngest child started screaming again. Hands pressed from inside the walls. The ceiling cracked above the bed. Whispering filled the room. The whispers knew their names. The door began to open by itself. The mother held the children tightly. The hallway was darker than night. Something stood there breathing. It smelled like the basement. The thing stepped forward. Its shape was wrong. Its face looked like someone they knew. The lights exploded. The house shook as if alive. The neighbors heard one long scream. Then nothing. Morning came quietly. Police entered the house hours later. They found no signs of struggle. The family was gone. No blood was found. No bodies were found, only deep scratches on every wall. The basement was empty. The house smelled fresh again. The case was closed quickly. New owners were warned. They laughed at the story. The house was sold again. The door opened easily this time. The air felt warm, too warm. The basement door was unlocked. Something inside shifted. The house had not finished feeding, and it was ready for the next family. The second family arrived a month later. They brought furniture and hope. The house watched silently. The neighbors felt sick seeing lights turn on again. The children laughed in the hallway. The laughter angered something inside. That night, the walls began to whisper. The father heard his name called softly. The mother dreamed of people trapped inside walls. The children woke with scratches on their legs. No one believed it at first. The basement door was open again. Cold air poured out like breath. Old stains returned to the walls. They were darker now. The house learned faster this time. Footsteps followed people from room to room. Mirrors showed extra reflections. The children refused to sleep alone. The father started hearing screams under the floor. The screams begged. They begged to be let out. He tried to break the basement floor. The wood screamed when he struck it. The house did not like pain. Doors slammed shut on their own. Windows sealed like skin. The smell returned stronger. The mother stopped eating. She said the food tasted like ash. The walls pulsed at night. The children watched faces push through them. Faces with open mouths. Faces without eyes. One night, The house locked itself. Phones stopped working. The outside world disappeared. The basement began calling the children. It sounded like their grandmother. The youngest followed the voice. The stairs swallowed him silently. His shoes were found at the top. The house trembled in satisfaction. The parents searched until their voices broke. Blood began dripping from the ceiling. The house grew warmer. The walls tightened. The father was pulled into the hallway wall. His body bent unnaturally. His scream became part of the house. The mother ran upstairs with her remaining child. The bedroom door would not open. The walls closed in slowly. The house whispered everything it remembered. Names of previous families filled the room. The child covered his ears. The mother begged the house to stop. The house did not understand mercy. The ceiling collapsed inward. The house consumed them gently. Morning came again. Neighbors heard crying inside the walls. Police arrived too late. The house was empty again. Fresh paint covered the stains. The floor was clean. The basement was silent. Records showed multiple disappearances. The house was marked unsafe. No one boarded it up. The walls continued whispering. The house waited patiently. Years passed without families. The hunger grew stronger. Cracks formed like veins. The house dreamed of noise. One night, a group entered illegally. They were filming for fun. Laughter echoed inside. The house remembered laughter. The door closed again. Cameras kept recording. Screams were captured clearly. The footage ended abruptly. Police found the cameras later. The house was empty again. Walls were warm to the touch. Something moved beneath the floor. The house was no longer satisfied. It needed to be filled completely. Authorities decided to destroy the house. Heavy machines arrived early morning. The ground beneath the house vibrated. The walls screamed for the first time. Workers froze when they heard it. The sound came from everywhere. The machines malfunctioned instantly. One man was pulled into the foundation. The house refused to be erased. Officials sealed the area instead. The house stood alone again, but it was no longer quiet. Crying came from the soil beneath it. Voices whispered at night. Faces appeared in the windows. The house had absorbed too much. It was no longer just a house. It was a collection of families. Years later, a storm broke the seal. A homeless family entered for shelter. The house welcomed them. It locked the doors gently. The walls pulsed with excitement. The parents felt safe for one moment. That moment was the last. The house replayed every death. The children screamed first. The parents followed. The house fed slowly. The storm ended by morning. Neighbors heard nothing. The house stood still. Inside, the walls were thicker. New faces pressed from within. The floorboards stopped creaking. The house was finally full. Silence returned. Authorities demolished it weeks later. Nothing was found inside. No bodies, no bones, no blood. Only walls too thick for a normal house. The land was declared safe. Apartments were built years later. Families moved in. Children played at night. The ground beneath them breathed. Walls in the new buildings whispered. Cracks formed slowly. People heard voices at night. They blamed stress. One apartment locked itself from inside. A family disappeared quietly. Investigators found nothing again. The ground remembered. The house had never left. It had only spread. Every wall carried its hunger. Every room remembered death. Families continued moving in. Disappearances increased. The city ignored the pattern. The buildings stood firm. The walls grew thicker. The ground pulsed softly. At night, entire floors breathed. Children heard their names called. Parents felt watched. No one connected the past. The house had learned patience. It no longer needed one building. It lived in foundations. It lived in walls. It lived where families slept. The city slept unaware. Screams were absorbed silently. The ground stayed warm. The hunger remained endless. Houses were never empty anymore. Families never left together. The walls always remembered. The house was never destroyed. It was only multiplied. Every home became a doorway. Every night became feeding time. The city stood on a grave. The grave was alive. And it was still growing, waiting for whoever sleeps next.